Millions of people now get their understanding of the CIA from one man. He claims to reveal how the CIA recruits people, manipulates situations, and creates deception. He's a regular on dozens of the world's largest podcasts and has made a name exposing the secrets of how the CIA operates. The man I'm referring to is Andrew Bustamante. And today we're asking if he really is just a former agent selling secrets for a price, or if there's something much darker at play. Hi, I'm Crate13, and I wasn't going to pay $400 for a cameo again like I did for the John Kiriakou video. But let's not waste any time and get right into it. Andrew Bustamante was raised in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and always described never feeling like he fit in, and always wanted to find a way to get out. He would eventually find out by joining the military you could get free college, so he ended up joining the Air Force. It was here he had the original goal of joining Air Force Intelligence, but he was passed over for this. Instead, he would join the Air Force Academy, which is no small feat. They have an acceptance rate around 10 to 15%, and their cadets train for 4 years under rigorous curriculum and physical fitness standards. After graduation, Bustamante was assigned to a missile combat crew and was an officer there. You see, this was the exact opposite of what you would expect from the Air Force. Instead of being up in the sky, he was down underground in an ICBM nuclear missile silo with the keys in order to launch the missile. A boring, but arguably pretty important job. But this is actually the job that caught the eye of the CIA. You see, despite being passed over for Air Force intelligence, this job showed a lot of skills required to be a CIA asset. Security clearances are already taken care of. You already show that you can handle not only top secret information, but the stress that comes along with them. And you can handle boredom. Because despite all the movies, there is plenty of times when you're a CIA asset where you're going to be extremely bored. But how did he get recruited? Was there a shady meeting in a bar? Was there secret cryptic messages he had to decipher? He got an email. You see, he was actually applying for the role at the Peace Corps because, in his own words, he thought it'd be a great way to see the world and get positive attention from girls. But during his application process, it was flagged and sent over to the CIA because the Peace Corps said that he would be a better fit over there. Anyway, so he gets recruited, and since he was already military, he had all of his clearances ready, and all he had to do was just pass a few psych evals. After this, he was a CIA agent. Now, the entire CIA employs roughly 10,000 people, and of those 10,000, only about 1,000 are undercover agents. Is this what Andrew was doing? It's kind of murky, because his own job description kind of contradicts the stories that he tells. Along with this, another former CIA officer, John Kiriakou, has been extremely critical of Bustamante and the claims that he's made related to his career.
Andrew Bustamante walked the walk. Actually, no, he didn't. He was a special operations officer or staff operations officer. That's an assistant to the operations officers. So this notion that he was running out there, running around the world, grabbing bad guys, kicking asses and taking names, is just simply not true.
By Bustamante's own admission, he was a staff operations officer, meaning his role was to collect, plan, and manage intelligence operations all over the world. Most of the time he was doing this in Langley, Virginia, but he has made claims that he was deployed to Africa, Asia, and Latin America. He even has made claims that he was in alias in a foreign country, meaning he has claimed he was undercover, which is likely not the case.
First time I went on a mission, I was totally blind to the risk of capture and the risk of torture and the risk of being shot. I was so amped to be in alias, in a foreign country, on my own, operating for CIA. It was like that was the forefront of my brain.
In his stories, he makes it seem like he's a Jason Bourne type figure running ops and completing cases, but he never goes into too much detail. He claims this is because he won't share secrets that would hurt America, which it's noble if it's true, but in reality, it feels like a very convenient excuse to not go into details about stories that you're exaggerating or just ripping off from other operatives that you met in the field. Because anytime he's asked, he's just like, oh, bro, it's too top secret. I can't get into that, bro. Sorry, if it's national security. We can't talk about what I did over there. I also feel like it's important to mention that he gets a lot of historical details wrong about fields that he is involved in and claims to be passionate about. Now, again, maybe I'm just a nerd that's so passionate about history that he made an entire YouTube channel about it. But I'd think if you were as obsessed with the CIA as he claims he was as a kid, and eventually going on to be as high up in the CIA as he claims he was, that you would know what years and the purpose of Project MK Ultra was.
What years was MK Ultra? I want to say that was World War II.
Yeah, I think the 40s.
Yeah, so we were trying to keep up with essentially weapons research And one of the ways that you keep up with your opponent's weapons research is by researching the same type of weapons they're researching.
But to understand Bustamante's real role in the CIA, we have to look at the different ways that people gather intelligence. Because at the end of the day, that's the CIA's whole job. Because they're usually not doing it by breaking into safes and doing all this other James Bond type stuff. It's usually a lot more simple than that. Signal intelligence. This is intercepting phone calls, emails, Zoom calls. Basically anything the NSA does to American citizens right now. Imagery intelligence. This is things like photographs, satellite imagery. Pretty basic, self-explanatory. Open and source intelligence, which is things like social media, newspapers, anything that is widely available to the public, and OSINT is exploding right now because of the internet. Human intelligence. That is the CIA's specialty. Basically, it comes from people. Someone is choosing to provide information, sometimes willingly, for money, ideology, or because they're blackmailed. This is where the CIA spends enormous effort. Case officers will be deployed and watch and learn patterns. You find someone who knows something valuable, and then find a problem with them. Because the secretary who has financial problems that has handled top secret documents is a lot more valuable than a general. The CIA will send this case officer to slowly, over the course of maybe years, recruit this person to becoming an asset for the intelligence agency. These guys are on the ground working deep undercover behind enemy lines. Bustamante was not this. He was the guy overseeing these operations and making sure they proceeded as planned. Very important job, but very different from what he makes his image seen as. If a case officer is a quarterback, Bustamante was like the offensive coordinator, if that makes sense for my football fans. Again, I can't stress how important the role is, but it's not exciting and not what people come to watch for. Now eventually, Andrew would leave this world behind, but unlike most of his counterparts who remained in the shadows, he steps into the spotlight. Now this is weird and unique in terms of this because there are people alive from the Kennedy administration that have never said a peep, if you catch my meaning by that. And this is where I want to take this as a look directly at Bustamante to more of a broad look at the industry as a whole of former operatives becoming celebrities. Because Bustamante was one of the first to do this and make it popular. For decades, the unwritten rule for intelligence work was simple. You did your service, after that you retired, stayed quiet, and lived happily ever after probably. Today, that's changing. Former CIA officers are writing books, starting podcasts, teaching classes, and building entire personal brands. And few have embraced this shift more completely than Andrew Bustamante. Now, Bustamante claimed he left the service because he wanted to be a better father for his children and actually be present in their lives, which Andrew's father had died before he could really raise his son, and his stepfather was emotionally unavailable to him. So when Bustamante grew up, he wanted to be the exact opposite of that for his kids and future family, which I can 100% admire. But I do think this detail will play an important role in my theory of what's going on at the end of the video. Anyways, he leaves the service and founds his company, Everyday Spy, where he teaches techniques that he supposedly learned and used in his time at the CIA. Now, these aren't tactical things like how to shoot or how to disappear. These are things like how to read body language, negotiate better deals, and to tell if you're being manipulated or not. Things useful to people in hustle culture looking to get any advantage that they can. But what I'm getting at is, a decade ago, you'd have former CIA officers write some memoir that would be pre-approved, and it would find success in niche circles. But in the age of podcasts, that audience has exploded to millions. Podcasting changed everything. Long-form interviews gave former intelligence officers hours, not minutes, to explain tradecraft, geopolitics, and human behavior. Audiences that once consumed spy novels were now hearing directly from the people who had actually worked inside intelligence communities. And Bustamante set himself apart by alluding to his stories rather than directly telling them, and used that to switch over into giving people practical advice that they could try on their real lives. Instead of telling people how he was recruited, he explains to people how they can tell if they're being manipulated at their job, which also doubles as a convenient commercial for his company. And hey, that's all well and good, more power to him, but not everyone is convinced that he's an innocent former agent selling trade secrets for a price. There's a common belief that once CIA, always CIA, and there's no leaving that life. Maybe it's possible that Bustamante's next mission was to become a public figure, show off some neat life and mental hacks, be charming, make people like you, build a cult of personality around all of these shows, then eventually start your own shows and cover world events, give your own CIA analysis on what's happening in the globe, and what positions the public should take on them. Turn the CIA into a brand, make it lose its scare factor, gain public trust, be a leaker exposing the secrets, control the oppositional narrative. And doing this to an oppositional side that has a strong distrust of the government and central authority can be a very strong thing. Or he just always wanted to host Boomer Slop TV on the History Channel. And Bustamante isn't alone on this. John Kiriakou, Robert Baer, and Jocko Willenick have all made hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars repeating this exact formula. Now, back to what I was saying. Is this the case? I have no idea. My personal theory is he's a grifter trying to make as much money for his kids as possible and provide for them in a way he was never provided for, which I really don't have a problem with. Look, I have no history in the military or intelligence circles, but I have a lot of very close friends that are. And I'm armchair quarterbacking this thing, but he doesn't pass the smell test. I don't trust him. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know. But I do know it's not all just random. All these intelligence officers and operators coming out of the woodwork and sharing all these stories and secrets, it's got to be for some kind of reason. Maybe it's just some big propaganda plan to get people to join the service, much like how Call of Duty did for the military. But knowing the CIA, I wouldn't put anything past them. Well guys, if you enjoyed this video, I consider it a spiritual successor to my video on John Kiriakou, so go give that one a watch. If you're a patriot who values the truth, go ahead and hit that like button, maybe hype it up, maybe even subscribe. And if you want to take it just a few steps further, go ahead and join that channel membership. You get access to the Discord and your name featured right here with all these other beautiful people. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed whatever food you decided to eat and whatever poop you decided to poop when you sat down to watch this video. I'm Cray13 and I hope you have a blessed day.